Good morning, everyone. Pedro Luro, President of the National Framers Council and President of Nomad Framing out here in New Jersey. We service New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania markets, but lately a lot of our work has been in what I consider the New York City suburbs. So that's northeastern New Jersey, Long Island, and the southern counties of New York State, just north of New York City. So obviously that has been, the biggest hotspot for COVID. And for the last, I would say 6 to 7 weeks, we've gone through a hell of a roller coaster ride. So today's program or message is really for our membership to take a peek into what we have been dealing with over the last several weeks. I am not here to give you any legal advice. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not giving you any medical advice or any HR advice, any of that. I'm just giving you my opinion and some of the facts of what we had to deal with. Take it for whatever you guys can use it for to better prepare yourselves for what's potentially coming, as COVID hasn't really hit a lot of the markets as hard as it hit our market. So we've unfortunately experienced the brutal force of this virus. So I just wanted to share, again, firsthand experience of what we went through and how we dealt with it. And I think most importantly, if I had this information 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, I probably would have done a couple things differently. So, that's the intent of this message, is to share some of my pains and my best practices with all of you. So I want to start with breaking down, a 5-week period, which I believe is really how it all unraveled very, very fast in 5 weeks. So the first week, I like to call it the ignorance phase. I had no understanding. We had no understanding what was happening. We wanted to avoid making any rash decisions. There really wasn't much information out there. We really thought this was just the next 15-minute news cycle, and this thing was going to be blow over us before we even knew it was here. So nothing really got done. We really didn't do much other than just go about our business. Week 2, and I remember this vividly. It was the evening of March 12th. I got a message on my phone that the NBA had canceled the season. I think at that point, fear kicked in. So that's what I considered my fear phase. Because at that point I figured, well, if an organization like the National Basketball Association wants to can their season for the year because of COVID, something's big happening, right? Something big has to be happening. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they just decided to, put it aside, and we'll be back next year. So the fear obviously kicked in. We started to understand how serious the situation is, and began to evaluate how to protect our staff. What do we do? What do we need to do here? So on the 13th, we started working remotely from the office. Obviously, we sent everybody home from the office, and we started taking additional steps and measures in the field. We really couldn't get much information back then from the CDC, so we really didn't know what to do. They were saying don't wear masks. They were just saying wash your hands repeatedly, and so on and so forth, which in a construction site, as a framing contractor, there's not much that we can do as far as keeping our hands washed at all times, because we really don't have those facilities on site. So I sent a request to all of our clients requesting hand wash stations, better cleanliness for the porta-johns, more porta-johns, requested that they ban the lunch truck, a couple of bullet points that we basically reached out to our clients and said, we need your help, right? This is a crisis that we're all dealing with. We can't do this alone. We need your help. And I got pretty good response. I must say that a lot of our clients, they jumped on it right away. They understood what we were dealing with, and they stepped up to the plate, which is good. Also reached out to our clients and asked them, because at this point they were all starting to move their office remotely as well. So I asked them, if we can start receiving payment via wire, so we don't have to go to their office, pick up checks, we don't have to look for mail, just to try to limit any kind of exposure on that transaction. We also created a coronavirus line item in our on our financials, so we can track all costs related to coronavirus. So, I believe it's going to be important for us to be able then to go back if we look to seek any additional assistance from the government. We need to be able to have everything in line, ready to be audited. We moved on to phase 3, or week 3. At this point, we had 12 active projects, and all of them were in different phases of production. But we started receiving notices from our clients that we're falling behind schedule. And at this point, we were just, I guess, still kind of coming out of that fear zone. The news were very frightening. You turn on the TV every night, and it was frightening seeing what was going on out here. A lot of our crews were afraid to come out. A lot of our crews said, "You know what? I want to stay home." A lot of our employees were having making similar decisions to just stay home. They were afraid. So obviously, our manpower was way down, and we couldn't really commit to these schedules. And it was getting to a point where our clients were sending us notices. We were looking at our contracts for force majeure, and it's like, we were going down a path that I didn't believe was the right path. So with the help of our attorney and the founder and CEO of Nomad Framing, Joel Shearer, we put together a letter that's sent to our clients, basically saying, hey, we're in this mess together. I didn't create it. You didn't create it. We're in the foxhole. We have 2 options. We're either going to get each other's backs and get through it, or we're both going to get shot in the head, because it's not going to be pretty coming out of it. And again, I think we had a really good response from our clients. They understood where we're coming from. And we basically just said, we're doing the best we can, given the circumstances we were in. And we were able to get through it just by having that candid conversation with our client, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to pull out the contract, look at this clause, force majeure, and back and forth. That's the last thing we needed to do, is get distracted by a contract when we're trying to deal with this crisis. And again, our clients responded very well once we had that candid conversation. At this point, New York State put into law, Governor Cuomo put into law that only 50% of the workforce can be working outside the home at any given point. So now we had to alternate crews, alternate workforce, and so on and so forth. We quickly moved into the 4th week. Again, all this is happening within a 3-week period. We're now into the 4th week, which I call the learning phase. At this point, we know what's going on. There's a lot of information out there. We now understand what we're dealing with. We put additional measures into place. We updated our PPE policy. We updated a bunch of stuff. But a lot of infections were now coming to or surfacing. We're on a project where one of the electrician trades came back with the positive test. The project was shut down around noon. So the guys were all working. It was a pretty big project. There's about 300 guys on site that day. Client comes in, blows a horn at 12 noon and sent everybody home because, the electrician had tested positive. They had to fumigate the whole job and get all cleaned up and so on and so forth before we're able to come back in. This same day, a project about 15 miles away, I was put on notice for not having enough manpower on site. So all this is happening the same day. So it's chaotic, very chaotic. Again, crews are very unreliable. We track our workforce every day. At this point, again, week 4, there was a day, and we just noted it was a rainy day. We only had 6% of our workforce show up to the site. And for the first, I would say, 4 to 5 weeks, we were lucky to have about 50% of our workforce out there. Numbers have gradually increasing over the last, I would say, week, but it took a long time to get through it. And again, it was like a 4 to 5 week period. On March 27th, the state of New York shut down all non-essential construction, which basically shut all of our projects in New York State at that point. A week later, New Jersey passed the same executive order 122, which basically put all of our projects, most of our projects on ice. So beginning of this, we had 12 active projects. Fast forward 5 weeks, we have one active project. One of the exemptions in New Jersey's executive order is if the project is exclusively affordable housing, you may continue. So we were able to continue on that one project. So we then really try to figure out how to, number one, protect our people, and number two, keep working so we can protect the company. And two things happened. So one thing was we were able to really dive into the executive orders for both New York and New Jersey, since that's where really we're mostly active. And we're able to work with our clients in the local jurisdictions to get waivers to continue, mainly because our buildings are wood buildings and they're exposed. So if we allow these buildings to be exposed to the weather for a long period of time, we all know what happens. It will degrade the structural integrity of the building. So we were able to at least get to the roof on the buildings that we were working on. So we do have a few buildings that's still ongoing. At this point, again, this is my adapt and growth phase, which is now week 5. That's where it started. Read an article where Toby Bizzuto was interviewed, and he's talking about the construction industry and how we know all about PPE. We know how to protect our people and so on and so forth. And that's when, I guess the light bulb went out for me, because I completely understood where he was coming from, and I agreed. I guess there was just too much fog that I couldn't really see what it is that we do every day. Every single day, we send our people into harm's way because it's our industry, right? It's a dangerous industry. We specifically focus in the large, high-density multifamily buildings. So these buildings are 4/1, 4/2s, 5/1s, 5/2s. So at any given point, we're putting our people on 5, 6, 7 stories up in the air, putting up a structure, working with nail guns and circular saws and so on and so forth. It's all about mitigating the risk and protecting our people. And we've done a very good job of doing so. We ourselves use FrameSafe, and FrameSafe has proven to be a tremendous tool for us and for our people. And we know how to look at the situations that we were put in and put measures in place to protect our people. So that's what we do. That's what we do day in and day out. So now that we understand what we're dealing with as far as COVID, we got to do the same thing. Put those measures into place to protect our people. It took a while for us to get here because, number one, we didn't have all the information available to us back then. And number two, there was a lot of fog with all these other things that were being thrown at us that we really, didn't have that, I guess, moment of clarity to figure out what our next step needed to be. And that's when it really hit me, right? So we quickly moved to expand our PPE, retrain our people on what we needed to do, went out and procured all the additional PPE we needed and to protect our people. So, the one thing I would say is that I wished I had this clarity 5 weeks ago. We did have a few of our employees get infected with COVID. We had a few of our contractors infected with COVID. Obviously, we're not entirely sure whether they were infected on site, they were infected at home, they were infected at the supermarket, the gas station. But nonetheless, there were some some of our workforce were infected. Have we had this information earlier, we probably could have, protected more of our workforce and our families. So, the one quote that always comes to mind is that you don't rise to the equation, you sink to the level of your training. And the one thing that we do well is training. We do safety training very well. Our industry does. So we need to improve that training. We need to increase that training, so we can get our people what they need and the information they need so they can move on to the next step. So today, we are probably anywhere between 50 to 75% capacity in our projects, and things are starting to level out a little bit here, but the last, I would say, 6 weeks have not been easy. The one thing I would recommend is talk to your subcontractors, talk to your people, specifically the ones that ride share, specifically the ones that carpool, that will jam pack 8 to 10 people in a van and come into the job site and then go home. That, in my opinion, not a professional opinion, just in my opinion, is the biggest source of the spread, because if any one of those individuals contract COVID in wherever they may have contracted, if you now put this individual in this small vehicle, and they spend 30 minutes to 1 hour in that vehicle, that's exactly what the CDC is saying. That is the complete opposite of social distancing. That's when the virus can spread very easily. So please make sure those people are wearing masks and they're wearing gloves and the vehicle is being disinfected regularly. We've done a few things to protect our people, as far as disinfecting the tools, disinfecting the equipment that we're using, and providing masks, providing gloves, providing face shields, and so on and so forth, for our people, so they can protect themselves. And that's really all we're trying to do here, is protect our people so we can protect our industry. I think at the end of the day, if we take these additional steps, we can definitely help our industry move in the right direction. So I'd like to share this with you. So the NFC and the SBCA has been working tirelessly to provide information for our membership. If you have not seen the resource page on the NFC website, I urge you to go there. You will see all the resources that we've been able to put together. So additional toolbox talks specific for COVID-19. There's job site preparation and training resources out there. What to do if a GC closes your job site, because trust me, it will happen. Almost every single one, all but one of our projects were closed at one point or another. And the demobilization process is not a simple one when you have 24 hours to do it. So do take a look at that resource page there. And the other part of this is it's us sharing information. So if any of you out there have any advice that you would like to share with the membership, with the council, please do so. Reach out to us. Let us know what some of the best practices that you're doing out there that can protect our people, your people. So if there's anything that you would like to share with us, please do so. That's what we're here for, to share information and to try to keep our people in our industry safe. And to end it, again, it's just trying to share with membership what I've learned over the last few weeks as we've been trying to, or doing our best to deal with COVID. Use the National Framers Council as your resource. Our team's been working tirelessly to provide information and to keep you abreast of what's going on in the country. Some of these markets, like our market, for example, have experienced this. Some of you are 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away, 1 week away from having to deal with exactly or very similar things that we have dealt with up here. So if you have any questions, please do reach out. Take a look at that resources page. There's a lot of information there. And be safe out there. Take care of your people. Take care of your families. And hopefully we'll be able to catch you soon somewhere.